Whether you're stuck in traffic, hitting the gym, or just winding down, we are here to spill the hottest tea from your favorite Bravo shows. From the wildest reunions to the quietest social media unfollows, we cover it all. So welcome back to Reality TV Podcasts and Clips. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Let's get into it on 3, 2, 1. We are jumping right into a situation today that is, frankly, really difficult to process.
Yeah, it really is.
We need to look at the devastating circumstances surrounding LEAH Margaretha and Eric Rosenbrook. If you follow their journey, things have taken a very dark turn recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
The passing of their baby daughter, Elisa, has officially been ruled non-accidental by the Department of Health and Human Services. But before we even get into the defensive statements they're making, we have to look at the broader legal reality LEAH is facing right now.
Which is immense.
Exactly. I mean, she currently has 24 pending felony charges hanging over her head.
It is a staggering number of charges. When you actually look at the paperwork, she is facing allegations of wire fraud, stealing from a business, multiple counts of forgery, and bail jumping.
Wow.
And just so we are all on the same page for this deep dive, wire fraud basically means using electronic communications like the internet or phone lines to execute a scheme to defraud someone of money. And bail jumping means she allegedly failed to show up for a mandatory court appearance after being released on bond.
Right.
And we also have to remember Eric brings his own history into this environment, having faced a previous arrest himself.
So with all of that legal weight already on their shoulders, this new non-accidental ruling from Health and Human Services regarding the infant is just a massive escalation. How are they even handling this legally?
Well, what's fascinating here is the defensive strategy they're employing, which tells us a lot about how people try to navigate the justice system when their backs are completely against the wall. Instead of quietly accepting the state's initial findings, LEAH and Eric have gone entirely on the offensive. They actually hired their own private medical examiner to explicitly challenge the state autopsy.
Wait, can you even do that? Just hire your own examiner if you don't like the government's conclusion.
You can, yeah, and it is a known tactic in high-stakes defense. Their core argument revolves around a rib fracture found on the infant. Their private examiner is pushing the theory that this specific injury could have occurred during CPR resuscitation efforts.
Oh, I see.
Because from a medical legal standpoint, emergency life-saving measures can sometimes cause skeletal trauma in pediatric cases. So by putting this alternative explanation on the table, their legal team is attempting to inject reasonable doubt into that non-accidental ruling.
And Eric is certainly not staying quiet while they mount this defense. I mean, he has made some very stark public commentary about the authorities. He literally compared Child Protective Services to fascism.
Yeah, he really went there.
He went as far as to say that CPS acts like a hammer, and they view every single parent as a nail. It is a profound level of defensiveness,
It really paints a picture of a couple that feels completely under siege by the system. But we have to make an essential distinction for you, the listener, as you follow this case. While there is a heavy cloud of suspicion, an active investigation, a lot of inflammatory rhetoric, there have been absolutely no criminal charges directly tied to the child's passing filed at this point.
Exactly. It is a waiting game right now.
Yeah.
And that collision of public scrutiny and profound real-world tragedy brings us to our next stop, which takes us to Salt Lake City.
A very different kind of heavy situation.
Yeah. We need to talk about the memorial service for Mary Cosby's 23-year-old son, Robert Jr., who sadly passed away from a suspected overdose. What really stands out to me about this deeply somber gathering wasn't just what happened, but what was completely missing from the room.
The cameras.
Exactly. There were no Bravo cameras anywhere.
That absence is incredibly significant. You have to remember, we exist in an entertainment ecosystem where almost every personal milestone, every fight, and every tragedy is commodified for our viewing pleasure. Drawing a hard, unyielding boundary around this memorial provides a very rare, untelevised moment of humanity for these people.
I do wonder, though, did production make that call or did the cast force it? Because the show is actively filming its new season right now. They easily could have pushed to film people arriving or leaving outside the venue.
It seems the production made the call to leave this moment completely alone out of pure respect for the grieving process. And if we look at who actually showed up, it gives us vital context about the genuine, off-camera relationships these women have built over the years.
All right, because Kyle Richards, Cynthia Bailey, and Cherie Whitfield all flew in.
Yes, they flew into Salt Lake City for the service. Flying across the country for an unfilmed event, knowing you aren't getting any screen time or a storyline out of it, proves that these women are real ones. They showed up purely to support a mother in her darkest hour.
The atmosphere at the service sounded incredibly powerful, too. It wasn't a quiet, reserved affair at all. Attendees described it as an uplifting, rapturous Pentecostal service. People said Mary was spiritually on one, finding deep, resonant comfort in her faith and her community.
Which is beautiful to hear.
It is, and I want you to think about this dynamic for a second. We get so used to consuming the manufactured, petty drama of these casts, but when earth-shattering grief strikes, where is the line? It really forces you to reflect on the boundaries of reality television and our own appetite for consumption as an audience.
It absolutely separates the character on the screen from the human being enduring a nightmare. And that friction between television personas and real-world consequences is playing out in a very different way in a federal courtroom in Potomac right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are shifting over to Wendy and Eddie Osefo, who are currently staring down a 16-count insurance fraud case. The latest update is a complete reversal in their strategy. They are now being tried separately. Wendy has officially requested a speedy trial, while Eddie has waived his rights to one.
This divergence in their legal approach is where the courtroom mind games truly begin. A speedy trial means exactly what it sounds like. Wendy wants to rush into the courtroom and force the prosecution to present their case immediately.
And Eddie is doing the opposite.
Exactly. Eddie, by waiving that right, is taking the slow road. He is diving deep into the discovery phase. For anyone unfamiliar, discovery is basically the legal phase where you get to comb through every single bank statement, text message, and receipt the prosecution plans to use against you.
Let me play devil's advocate here. Why split the trials? How does Wendy rushing in while Eddie takes his time actually protect them as a couple?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the speculation running through legal circles is deeply intriguing. By pushing for a speedy trial, Wendy forces the government to present their case before they might have fully synthesized the complicated financial paper trail. If she gets cleared early, she is safe.
But the burning question is, are they setting Eddie up to take the fall?
Exactly. If Wendy walks away, does Eddie absorb the brunt of the 16 counts to protect her public career and their family structure?
That is the ultimate high-stakes gamble. And you can see the pressure cracking through in the actual courtroom. There was a highly awkward moment between Wendy and the prosecutor recently.
Oh, this is so painful to read about.
This prosecutor, who is known for being entirely stoic, recently suffered a personal loss. Wendy approached her during the proceedings and said, "Sorry for your loss." Now, that sounds like basic human empathy, right?
In a normal setting, yes. But in a federal fraud case, every single interaction is calculated. The prosecutor gave her absolutely zero emotional response.
It is exactly like trying to suck up to a teacher who coldly dismisses you and tells you to go away. You do not get brownie points for offering condolences to the person whose sole job is to put you behind bars. It felt like a transparent attempt by Wendy, who prides herself on being the smartest person in any room, to manipulate the emotional temperature of the space.
It rarely works. Federal prosecutors do not care about your reality TV charm. And speaking of legal boundaries enforcing behavior, let's look at the West Coast.
Yes, let's look at the newly finalized custody agreement for Jax Taylor and Brittany Cartwright over their son, Cruz. This document is fascinating because it is so incredibly specific. First off, there is absolutely no child support being exchanged. Instead, they have agreed to split all of Cruz's expenses based entirely on whose custodial time it is.
The financial setup is practical, but the behavioral clauses are what we need to focus on. The court documents outline rigid parameters. Neither Jax nor Brittany can introduce a new romantic partner to Cruz unless they have been exclusively dating that person for a minimum of 6 months.
Which is a very strict timeline for reality stars.
It is. Furthermore, there is a strict documented ban on consuming alcohol, marijuana, or any other drugs while they are actively in charge of their son.
Why do you think the court was so specific about those substances? Is that standard in custody agreements?
It is not always standard boilerplate text. These clauses are deeply reactive to the well-documented behaviors we have all watched play out on television for years. The family court system watches these shows too, or at least the lawyers do.
That makes a lot of sense.
It is the court formally imposing the boundaries that reality TV usually encourages cast members to break. And we have to connect this to Jax's recent public claim that he is a year and a half sober. This court mandate essentially holds his feet to the fire on that declaration. If he slips up, it's not just a bad look on camera, it is a violation of a legal custody order.
That accountability is crucial, especially considering the deeply poignant details Brittany has shared about Cruz. Last year, Cruz received an autism diagnosis. Brittany shared that right around the age of 2, he experienced a severe regression in his speech, eventually stopping talking almost completely. It is a journey so many parents navigate, and Brittany's perspective is genuinely touching. She has been very open about the challenges, but she fiercely believes Cruz sees the world in a vibrant, amazing way that the rest of us might not even comprehend. She insists he has absolutely no limitations, saying he could be the smartest in his class or work for NASA one day.
It is a beautiful reframing. She
Yeah.
isn't mourning a neurotypical child. She's fiercely celebrating the child she has. That kind of advocacy requires immense strength.
That idea of fighting a massive institution actually perfectly mirrors what is happening right now in New York. Let's bring up Leah McSweeney's ongoing lawsuit against Bravo and Andy Cohen.
This is a massive story.
This is a total David and Goliath situation, and Leah just scored a major legal victory. The network attempted a classic corporate maneuver. They tried to force the entire case out of the public eye and into private arbitration, but the judge officially blocked that attempt. This lawsuit will stay right where it is in a federal public court.
The judge's reasoning here is brilliant. The judge explicitly stated that the network cannot have its cake and eat it too.
What does that mean legally?
Let me explain what that means in this context. Private arbitration is a system where a company forces you into a secret, closed-door room with a private judge they usually select, keeping all the dirty laundry out of the public record. Bravo had already begun litigating parts of this case in the regular federal court. They only asked for that secret arbitration after things started moving forward. The judge ruled that they waived their right to secrecy by already participating in the public process.
And the gravity of Leah's allegations makes a public trial so significant. She is alleging a deeply toxic, discriminatory work environment. She claims the network actively exploited her known alcohol addiction to create dramatic storylines, completely failed to provide basic disability accommodations, and she leveled serious allegations regarding cocaine use and favoritism directly at Andy Cohen.
These are severe workplace misconduct allegations that go far beyond standard caste arguments. For decades, reality television has operated in this bizarre gray area of labor law. The talent are classified as independent contractors, but are tightly controlled like traditional employees, often placed in environments specifically engineered to be psychologically destabilizing.
Leah shared a sentiment that I think is vital for you to hear. She said that while reality television might look like pure entertainment from the comfort of your couch, the harmful misconduct happening behind the scenes should never be normalized. She is trying to force an entire industry to reckon with its own labor practices.
She is demanding structural accountability.
Yeah.
But while Leah fights in federal court, there is a very different type of court playing out down south.
Let's shift gears to the Court of Public Opinion in Charleston. Here's where it gets really interesting. We need to break down the confrontation brewing between Sally Carson and Charlie Manley over Craig Conover. If you thought Southern hospitality was all about polite manners, you haven't seen these two navigate a love triangle.
The central conflict revolves around the unspoken rules of friendship within a hyper-incestuous social circle. Charlie went on an oyster date with Craig, and Sally is furious, claiming Charlie knew full well that Sally had deep romantic feelings for him.
And Sally didn't just come with vague accusations. She brought the ultimate currency, the receipts. Sally literally leaked her own text messages to prove her point. In these texts, sent right before that infamous oyster date, Sally explicitly wrote to Charlie that she was sad and that she didn't want to have feelings for Craig.
She completely documented her emotional vulnerability.
Yes, so when Charlie tries to play the innocent card, claiming she had no idea the feelings were serious, Sally has the digital proof to call her out.
It is a fascinating look at how modern friendships operate when everyone treats their text threads like a deposition. Liva Bonaparte is completely siding with Sally, reinforcing the old rule that if your friend likes someone, they are entirely off limits.
And Charlie's reaction.
Charlie is utilizing the strategy of feigned ignorance. By claiming she didn't grasp the depth of the feelings, she is trying to absolve herself of the betrayal. But when you have leaked text messages staring you in the face, feigned ignorance rarely holds up.
It really changes how you interact with your friends when you know anything you text could be published for the world to see. Moving up the coast, let's look at the latest updates from the Summer House, where the fans are actually trying to write the storylines themselves.
Oh, the fan theories are wild right now.
Amanda Batula has been the subject of rampant speculation recently, linking her romantically to both Wes Wilson and Jesse Solomon. Amanda firmly, unequivocally shut those rumors down, explicitly stating she isn't touching any of her cast members.
KJ Dillard offered a really grounded perspective that backs Amanda up. He pointed out how the reality TV fandom has this incredible ability to spin a wild, elaborate romantic narrative out of a simple, innocent photograph of two friends standing next to each other. The audience's desire for off-camera drama constantly overrides the boring reality that sometimes coworkers are just coworkers.
Amanda also got surprisingly candid about her marriage and the constant swirl of split rumors that surrounded her and Kyle. She admitted that she actively hid the rumors and played coy about them for a while simply to protect her own mental peace.
Which is completely understandable.
When you are dealing with marital struggles, having thousands of strangers demanding answers is paralyzing. Interestingly, she insisted that if they ever did divorce, she wouldn't try to take half of the Loverboy brand, recognizing how much heart and soul Kyle poured into that specific business. She also mentioned how much she missed having Paige DeSorbo around this summer for comfort, but deeply appreciated Ciara Miller stepping up to be her rock.
The shifting alliances are always compelling. But what is even more interesting is the drama the cameras apparently missed. KJ Dillard dug into some unaired tension involving a fight with Jesse Solomon. Apparently, there was a significant clash over who got the coveted double bedroom.
Why do they fight so hard over a bedroom? Is it just about the bed size?
It's about status within the house hierarchy. In any shared house, real estate is power, and KJ was furious that Jesse tried to claim a room KJ had already moved everyone's luggage into. But the conflict went deeper than just square footage.
Right, there was a bigger issue.
Yes, KJ expressed profound disappointment in Jesse for fundamentally breaking bro code. Jesse openly expressed romantic interest in Ciara, who was famously West's ex. For KJ, this wasn't just a faux pas, it was a blatant disregard for the foundational rules of male friendship within their specific group. Even when the cameras are down, the social politics never stop churning.
For our final topic, let's fly across the country to Beverly Hills, where digging up the past became a weapon. We need to detail the intense confrontation between Amanda Francis and Dorit Kemsley. At a recent cast dinner, Amanda confronted Dorit over what she felt was a highly targeted attempt to dig up dirt on her. Specifically, Dorit brought up a blog post that Amanda had written 14 years ago detailing her time in a cult.
This raises an important question about the ethics of information gathering within a reality cast. Dorit's defense is a textbook example of plausible deniability.
How so?
For those unfamiliar, plausible deniability is when you create just enough of an innocent excuse for your actions so you can't be officially blamed, even if everyone knows exactly what you did. Dorit claims she simply Googled your book because Amanda mentioned selling hundreds of thousands of copies, and she just magically stumbled across this deeply traumatic blog post from over a decade ago.
Amanda sees right through that. From her perspective, you don't accidentally scroll past hundreds of pages of search results to find a 14-year-old entry about a cult unless you are actively searching for a vulnerability to exploit on camera. And we should detail what Amanda actually experienced because it is severe.
It really is.
She spent 2 years involved in a highly controlling, deeply manipulative church that she says fit absolutely every single clinical criteria of a cult. She wrote that blog post years ago as a way to reconcile the abuse she endured and to figure out how to trust her own decision-making again.
For someone to casually drag that deeply personal, painful history out between courses at a dinner party is astonishing. It highlights a very dark psychological dynamic of these shows. Trauma is often treated not as something to be respected, but as ammunition. Dorit bringing it up wasn't about understanding Amanda better. It was about unbalancing her and shifting the power dynamic of the group.
So what does this all mean? If we look back at everything we've unpacked today, from Leda and Eric's devastating legal charges and Mary Cosby's untelevised grief, to Wendy Osefo's courtroom maneuvers, Jax and Brittany's strict custody boundaries, and Leah McSweeney forcing a major network to answer for its labor practices, is a clear, overarching theme. We are witnessing the constant grinding friction between the highly manicured, perfectly lit image these stars desperately try to project and the messy, chaotic, and often incredibly painful real-world battles they are fighting the second the cameras turn off. The facade is cracking, and the real-world consequences are spilling out into federal courts and custody agreements.
It is a phenomenal observation, and it leaves us with something critical to consider. When we watch these shows, we as an audience demand total transparency from the cast. We feel entitled to their marriages, their friendships, and their flaws. But after hearing about brutal custody parameters, serious federal lawsuits, and profound, unfilmed deep grief today, you have to ask yourself, at what point does our demand for entertainment strip away their basic right to humanity?
That is a question we all need to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives, keep looking past the edits, and keep questioning the reality behind the reality TV you consume. We'll see you next time.